Hi, I'm Bruce from Wisdom of Crowds, and you're watching Morow. Yeah, it does. It does come from that. The name comes from that. But I think personally, I think an individual is what you need. And when I'm songwriting, it's certainly a solitary experience. I do it on my own. I think it's maybe different when you have an idea and you want to take it somewhere, then a crowd works. But I think the initial thought, the initial spawn of an idea or a song or anything else, it has to come from an individual. It would scare me, I think, if a crowd was required. And so, yeah, it's ironic, really. So I probably agree with you that I probably disagree with the book if it's saying a crowd is more intelligent, as I say it's not. It was a long, long time ago. My label K-Scope floated the idea with me that there was a guy called Johnny Wilkes who works at my label who had some ideas, some musical ideas, just little sketches, not in any way complete, phrases. For instance, Frozen North, he had one phrase stuck in the Frozen North, and that was it. And he said, so I built the lyrics around that. And the music he came up with a sort of a bit of a riff, and that was it. So then I took that riff and said, oh, where will this go? So that happened about 4 years ago, and we just, in between the Pineapple Thief and the projects everyone was doing, we would just develop it until 4 years later we realised we had a really good album, but we just didn't have any vocal that would work. And my vocal, even if I thought me singing on it was a good idea, it wouldn't have sounded any good. My voice just wasn't right, and so that was how it happened. Really, it was, and there was no expectation. I never thought it would be released. It was just something that we were doing for experimenting. With Pineapple Thief, it's me. I don't let anyone else really interfere. But with this one, I was quite happy for Johnny to come back and say, let's try this, let's do that, let's try this melody. And it's quite interesting. I think the whole concept of crowds, it can work if you find a crowd that you really like. And I haven't found that until now. You know, this working with Johnny and with Jonas has just been a joy, whereas normally it would be, just give me that, I'll do it myself. Whereas this time, I look at Jonas when he's singing and I think, well, I can't sing like that, you do it. And with Johnny, he had a really good commercial ear that made the songs quite immediate and exciting. So I took all that and sort of put it in the pot. When I first joined K-Scope, the first time I heard The Great Cold Distance, I emailed Jonas and said, wow, the music and your voice is brilliant. And he replied and said, wow, thank you so much, you know. And so I've always been a fan of Catatonia and Jonas's voice. And it just came like years later when we were listening to it and said, Jonas would be perfect for this. But I just thought, well, there's no way that's going to happen because Catatonia are super busy. They tour all year. And if they're not touring, they're writing an album or they're doing a bloodbath or whatever it is, you know, all the stuff they do. But luckily, he was into it, and we had 2 weeks where he flew over to my studio and sung for a week. We had a great time. So yeah, it was. It just came together. We like for 4 years we had this album that wasn't finished, and then Jonas came down in the spring of this year, wasn't it? Yeah, and 2013, and finished it.
Look at the way it turns.
It's weird. I loved not singing on the album. I really loved it. I could just concentrate on my guitar and the production and all that. But on stage, it's really weird. When you're used to just being the front man who has got something to do all the time, singing into a mic. Tonight, it was like, well, what do I do? What do I do with myself? There's sections where there's no guitar, and I have to stand there, and it's quite, that took a bit of getting used to. But luckily, I look at the crowd, and they're all looking at Jonas, so it's good. They're not looking at me. Yeah, and I think that was because I didn't want to faff about with a real drummer. I wanted to go into my studio and make the record, and to do that, I think I deliberately made it electronic.
So it's not a real drum?
There's a few acoustic drums, a couple that we put in at the end, but generally when I was working on the record, it was all electronic drums. So it's basically just me having fun in the studio with my guitars and my bass and my synths and seeing where it would go. Like I said, I didn't have any aspirations for it to be released. So the fact that it's been released and we've come here and played in front of a good crowd tonight, and they liked it. So it's all a surprise. Well, Steve Kitch, the keyboard player, is my keyboard player in the Power thing. And Daniel Osborne is the drummer, who's a friend of ours, and he's we're all friends, so it's really good. I think when you're on stage, you have to be friends for it to work. Darling, we had it all. Really, really good. And because I didn't have any expectations, I thought that we would just release it, and collaborations and side projects and things like that, they normally just go under the radar. But this one, critically, it's done really, really ridiculously well. But I think there are more people who need to hear it. It's still very much an underground record. Yeah, we've spoken about it. Jonas and I have spoken about it because Jonas was really keen because he came in just at a very late level. But since then we've become really good friends, and we've sort of share a lot of common influences. I mean, both of us when we were young, we were really into death metal. You wouldn't think that I was into death metal, but it was like, so. And but if you listen to Catatonia now, they're not a death metal band. They're a melodic metal band, and so there's a lot of similarities, I think, between the two. And Jonas is really keen to get together and write some more stuff. But the problem is, the priority for both of us, priority for him is Catatonia, priority for me is Blind Thief. But we desperately want to do it. So it's we've already shared a couple of tracks, and so it started, but how long it'll take. I hope it doesn't take another 4 years. Well, it freaked me out a bit because it was like, how many more things can happen? It was, the Storm and Corrosion album was, Mike lives in Stockholm. And me and my wife went to stay with Jonas and his wife, and we went out to Stockholm, and Mike came out, and we wanted, so it was all very much it's all very weird, really, like that is this our Blackfield in a way, even though it's completely different. It's it does do my head in sometimes where I think, oh, come on, like, Stephen does a collaboration with Mike from Opeth, and now I've done a collaboration with Jonas from Catatonia. I didn't do it on purpose, I really didn't. But I think the other thing is it's a small world. There's only that many people in this sort of genre and who are doing it that so it's probably not such a coincidence. But I don't mind. I don't care. I don't think. It's only when you ask the question that I remember.